All right, three, two, one. Welcome back, everybody, to the Frequency of Fatherhood Summit. I'm super stoked today to have Kyle Newell, the Panda Man official here. And this is big news. Kyle, thank you so much for your time and just all the grace that you've had with me to work with me and my summit that we have put together here.
Yeah,
Before we get started into the big questions, though, can you share your story behind when and why you started the Panda Man community?
sure. Yeah, thanks for having me, Jack. I've been looking forward to this, man. A lot of mutual friends. So with the Panda Man, the origin of the panda, right, kind of goes back to a basketball player, Ron Artest. So, I love the way Ron played. I like the old school basketball. I was a big basketball player. I love basketball, but that physical, and then the physical style. So then after I think, stopped playing, he changed his name, I think, to the Panda's Friend or Friendly Panda, something like that. And I was on his email list. And I got an email from him. He's selling, his hat or whatever shirt, which is different than my logo. And then I said, oh, I like Ron. I'll get a shirt and a hat. And then I started researching the panda animal. It was largely viewed to be like a mythological creature until like 150 years ago by Westerners. And it's also got the duality, the black or white, but it's also viewed as this cuddly creature, but it's also can be very fierce. So I kind of just connected with that, right? So I had that in my mind. At that point, I had already been fasting since 2014 with your typical intermittent fasting. I started that during the last time I competed in bodybuilding. Kind of was really, I was like, okay, this is way better than North American dieting. Then come 2019, um, I was having a fat loss contest with my staff at the gym. Well, I have two gyms over here. So we're having a fat loss contest. So I got to dive back into the research. I got to start going longer. So I started going longer. So since April of 19, for that whole first summer, I pretty much did a 72-hour fast every week. I was first time doing a 48, 72, and I was like, man, this is freaking next level, man. And then I started thinking, I'm like, this is what people have been looking for as far as how to eat. So then he fast forward to that December, right about now, right before Christmas, I got, who knows if it was an early case of the virus or whatever. I never got tested for any of that stuff, but they told me I had the flu. Like my wife wound up making me go to the doctor because I would get these convulsions. I was really sick, man. Like, and it turned out they said it was flu B. So we had a newborn at the time, but she had me kind of locked away in the bedroom before the pandemic, which is funny. She's like, you're quarantined. And I don't want to get a baby sick, but I'm sitting there in like a state of delirium. And I just kind of wrote out, okay, how do I bring this to people? I got to write a book. I got to do some type of challenge. How do I teach them this in 5 or 6 weeks? And what am I going to call it? And I said, looked at my wrist. I got a panda tattoo, and I said, oh, the panda diet. And so from there, that kind of took on its own legs. And then about a year ago or so, I got kicked off Instagram with my regular name. Probably posting. I think I was posting something about like chlorine dioxide or something like that. Completely wiped me out. And the media team that had approached me to start doing, they wanted to build up this media brand, and they needed a character. I said, all right, what are we going to call it? So I put it like the Panda Man KN, my initials, and then they renamed it the Panda Man Official. So it's not even a year old as far as that moniker goes. And that's what we ran with, man. And that's it's been cool, man. So yeah.
Dude, I would have never guessed that story in a million
Yeah.
years.
Pretty
Especially
random.
you busted out Ron Artest. Like most people don't know who he is at all. Like these young kids don't know old basketball. They know
Oh no.
Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan. And I love that era of basketball, Jordan. And so Artest reminded me of that era.
Yeah.
Kind of like a connection to those guys.
It's the best. And one more thing you said there is that when you're sick, you fasted. It's kind of our body naturally does that, doesn't it?
Tells you to fast. That's what every animal does. And all you got to do is when you're sick, do you feel like eating? Like people are going to say no viscerally, but they're told, oh, you got to eat. You got to nourish yourself and let the body heal. Just let it heal.
Yeah, and I think too many people aren't aware of that. I preach that same thing all the time. I'm like, guys, if you're feeling bad or sick, go right into fasting. Stop eating. Number one thing. Even my son, who's 3, I remember he got the flu a couple of years back or COVID, but kids weren't really getting COVID. It was more like a stomach flu, right? A
Sure.
severe stomach flu. We didn't take him to the doctor. We hit him with all naturopathy type of stuff. But the number one thing that helped was this 2-year-old fasted. And people are like, you let your son fast? I'm like, it's natural for the body.
Yeah, completely natural. You
Yeah.
know, it's the most natural thing we can do, I think.
Yeah. And I think it should be, there should be some awareness brought to it. So I love your message and what you're doing. And I'm going to go further into that. Can you explain how incorporating fasting and adopting traditional eating patterns, because that's kind of what we're doing, transforms the lives of men's character development, personal growth, and physical, spiritual health, just all health in general, pretty much?
Sure. So when I teach fasting, I tell people, look, your weight loss, your body composition, this is just the tip of the iceberg with this. It's not that's why a lot of people begin it. But then you start realizing the deeper health benefits. There's all these physiological benefits, but then you get into the inner dialogue. You got to, it's a self-mastery. It's a great self-development tool, because you'll be sitting there and you might say, man, I feel a little hunger pang. Well, what are you going to do then? If you decided, right, that's a big word for me, decision, cut yourself off from any other possibility. What are you going to tell yourself? Right. So you start becoming more self-aware. What are the thoughts I'm having? And take control of those thoughts. So the self-development piece of that, and then the spiritual aspect, if you go down this path, as you know from your fasting background, so my standard, right, is the 48 one meal a day. That's how I live. But at this point, it's God will give me messages as far as like inspirations, I should call them, when I should do a longer one. So I don't really plan out the longer ones if I'm doing a 72-96 or 5-day, whatever. It's just like the thought will come into my head, and I know that, okay, can't go back, man. He's planted that seed for whatever reason. Maybe I was getting complacent, or I wasn't getting the same thing. And another thing, that fasting, this has been great. It's kind of gone hand in hand with my involvement in my faith. But every meal now, I pray before every meal, because it just brought this mindfulness to eating, and how grateful I am for every meal I eat. I feel it's like the best meal ever, which is like, imagine feeling like that all the time for guys out there. Like, most people just eat mindlessly and say, another meal. Every meal, man, I look forward to it. It's a beautiful thing.
No, I love that. And it really does bring you to your consciousness,
Yeah.
really be present and understanding your food. I speak a lot about this, when guys are eating, I tell them, I'm like, all right, guys, and this is a challenge I've actually done, where it's like, hey, for the next 5 days, when you put something into your mouth to eat, you're going to chew it 10 times. You're going to count every chew. So people can see like how much we just shove food into our mouths. So our subconscious is like, I'm hungry. I'm always hungry. And this food's everywhere. It's plastered everywhere. And most of it's like ultra processed crap
Oh
too.
yeah.
Like that's why people are feeling like crap. And I mean, right now, like I told you, I'm on like a 70-hour fast at the moment, and I'm going about 84 to 100, but I feel great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's times where you override and you have to go through that discipline, right? Of, hey, the decision, like you said, that decision's huge, and
Huge.
I'm about to give in. I'm about to give in. What do? I go and drink water instead. I go and have some bone broth, you
Yeah.
know, and people just don't realize how much this body can do. And I think that's a great thing that you're pushing that, because you're getting people out of their comfort zone. One of the most important things. Can you touch on why it's so important for men to be comfortable in the uncomfortable?
Yeah. Well, the main thing, guys, right? The one constant we know in life is change. But that's the number one thing people fear. So you're fearing this thing that is coming. You already know it's coming, and your brain craves patterns, right? Prediction and response. So if we go through life and we feel like everything's going to always stay the same, when we know there's stuff coming our way, it's going to throw a wrench into our psyche. So just know that it's coming. Know that change is always going to be there. And if you have mastered that internal state, or you're in the process, I don't know if we ever truly master, but if you're in the process of it, now you can guide yourself through it. The inner dialogue, the first environment, right, for us is that conversation, which most people are not aware of the conversation going on. That's why what you're doing is great, bringing awareness to this, right? We have control of these thoughts, a lot of these thoughts, and we can kind of course correct. So once we do that, and as men, right, as fathers, it is your duty to be a protector, a provider, and be the pillar of strength. So if you're going to cave to your feelings, right, and you're going to cave to oh, change came. I'm scared of this. You can't, it doesn't matter what you feel. You got to put the feelings aside. Like that's not for men to do. Right? Men, you got to be stoic. I really believe that as men. And I think the fasting helps with that big time. It's a stoic mindset, right? It's just go forward. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with you on that. I don't want to get off the subject yet of fasting. One more question on fasting.
Sure.
And I hear this question a lot. Should I fast and then work out? And I tell people, for me personally, when the Army would say, hey, we have a physical fitness test coming up, I knew I was not eating dinner for sure that night. I always had to do fasted workouts. I feel better. I feel lighter. I feel just more in tune with my workout even. And so what is your take on fasted workouts?
I think that's the way to go. I mean, even when I was competing early on in bodybuilding, I would just intuitively work out fasted. So I look at the fast beast feast. Like I believe that that's how the body is designed. And people think, oh, I need to eat to fuel my workout. When you eat, right, the digestion is taken away from the sympathetic nervous system, the muscles, the fight or flight. What I've seen is your performance actually improves, right? So there's a couple aspects of that. The oxygenation of the blood, the mitochondrial function is improved, and you're tapping into something primal like a hunter, right? So yeah, you haven't eaten in 24 hours. Now you got to go work out. What are you going to do? You haven't eaten in 18 hours. Go work out. Put yourself through that state. How are you going to respond? Because you want to be prepared for anything, and like you said, you're going to feel better working out like that. Like the people that are eating all throughout, and I've done all that stuff, but eating, pre, peri, post workout, it's two different parts of your nervous system. So work out fasted, drive that insulin sensitivity, and you're going to really grow to love it and see that your performance isn't going to drop off at all.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think men, you just need to just try it. Try it once, and I guarantee you're going to say Jack and Kyle are right.
Yeah,
Like we both have tested this many times, and
yeah,
I mean, you do it every day pretty much, right?
yeah. That's how I live, man. The past 5 years, if you did the average, it's probably less than 6 meals a week because I'll do longer ones. But it's rare, like Thanksgiving, Christmas. I'll eat twice, and I give myself the freedom on vacations and all. But I've really grown to love this, what I call the Black Panda, the 48 and one meal a day, just because I feel great. Like I feel great on it, right? And I used to live for my cheat days when I was bodybuilding, doing traditional diets, but I feel like crap at the end. So now, again, like Sundays is my cheat day, but it's usually just winds up being a nice cheat meal at night, just like my other feasts, because I just feel good, man. I feel really good, but this is how I live. So it's not like something on and off. Like this is it.
Yeah. No, I get that, and I was the same way back in the days when I would I'd actually bodybuild for a couple of years back in Tampa, but I thought those cheat days. I laughed when you said that because I know exactly. I had a trainer, and he'd be like, "All right, it's your cheat day today." But this guy's the same guy who had me rinsing tuna to get one carbohydrate off the tuna.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
this is
correct.
back when we're still looking at Lee Haney, Ronnie Coleman just
Yeah,
came up and he's winning it, and Jay Cutler, matter of fact, didn't even win one yet
yeah,
when I was getting into it. So I mean, you and I are the same age, so you know exactly what I'm
yeah.
talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
That's
it was just wild. And then you'd eat this massive meal and just feel like total slop
oh
and
yeah.
just moving slow. Like it was just not healthy. And I always thought that too to myself is like, why am I doing this? And I think that consistency is so important to just stay in all of our health fields, like mental, spiritual, physical health, like stay consistent, right? And I think that's a big, big key right there.
It is. And I think with the fasting, even if you whatever sick, like we talked about, you could do fasting wherever. And it could be your foundation to keep you on track with everything else. Right. And it's amazing with that. And to the last point with that, with the food, one of the main things I teach is food is a drug. It affects your internal biochemical hormonal environment. So once we start viewing this as it's a drug, and then when you guys feel hunger, right? What is that? That's what fat loss feels like. That's what health. You just tell yourself this. This is what fat loss feels like. This is what health feels like. I used to do that when I was bodybuilding. You probably did the same thing because you knew it was coming. To say, how are you going to deal with it? You're going to be poor me, or are you going to turn it into a positive?
Yeah, that rephrasing is so important. And if you could really believe it, guys, it's over. You're gonna be looking great, feeling great. I mean, that's really what it is making yourself believe it, not only preaching it, but when you believe it, it's really rephrase things to fit your lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's one other big topic that I love that you do, Kyle. I know we mentioned it before, but you work with men over 40.
Sure.
And I'm over 40. You know, some people call us the old dogs now, and we're old men, which I was a 20-year-old kid once that called those 40-year-olds old men. So I have it coming. It's fine, but you have to beat me first. That's what I always tell these young guys. I said, back then, I beat all the 40-year-olds, but now you have to beat me. And I'm not the typical 40-year-old anymore. So how do you help fathers over 40 prioritize their overall health while balancing family responsibilities? Because a lot of them you have, I see, are family guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you gotta first get them to believe that they're coming into their prime. Like I totally believe that in our 40s and 50s and maybe into the 60s, you should be at your prime. If you're taking care of your body and you got the wisdom now, and you look at like Tom Brady, right, as an example, playing to his mid 40s. Like I believe, so you get them to buy into that they're not washed up, they're not over the hill. And then it's a prioritization, right? So like Stephen Covey's quadrants, important, not urgent. So fitness is super important, but for most people, it's not urgent. They haven't had a massive heart attack, or they're comfortable being a little bit overweight. So we got to make fitness, urgent, okay? And realize it's still important, right? Even though it is not an urgent thing, but you don't want to take away from your family. So this is all to give your family a better life. So when do you place it? For most guys, get up and do it early. Like get it done with. Set your day, set your mindset. Now you won. And your kids, and I get these guys to really, your kids are learning from watching you. Doesn't matter what you tell them. They're watching everything you're doing. So when my kids are here, dude, I'm hitting push-ups throughout the day. I want them to see this constantly. I want them to come to the gym with me. And you realize that it's okay if your kids and your wife doesn't view you as such a man right now, but they can, right? And you should aspire to be like the superhero for them, the hero for them, right? It's you got to really realize that, like, you are the pillar. When you walk in the room, I tell guys, you want everybody in the room to be like, I feel a little bit safer now. I feel a little bit better that dude's here, right? So you get them to buy into this belief is the main thing.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I use a similar analogy about walking in the room. And I just tell people, I'm like, when you walk in, that room should change. The energy in the room should change. They should feel your presence and how high speed you are, or how much of a Superman you are, right? Because we want our kids to think we're superheroes. I have a son. So, if you have a boy, they love, my son loves superheroes. He's 3 years old. I didn't think at 3 they love superheroes. But then he sees all these like chiseled guys. But luckily, dad's looking like a superhero. So he calls me superhero dad all the time. And you know
Awesome.
what? I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm like, you know what? Thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
Wouldn't every father want that from their
Why would
kids?
you not? Why would you not?
Yeah. Yeah. And I do the same thing. I do push-ups or burpees or sit-ups with him every day. I do it probably like 4 or 5 times. Matter of fact, sometimes he'll ask me to do something. I'll say, what do I need to do first? And I'll say, oh, burpees or push-ups. And so he's just seeing dad do a routine like it's nothing. Hey, dad's busting out 50 push-ups. No big deal. It's not even a big deal. It took 20 seconds. Something like that, right? And so for
Yeah.
them, that pattern forever is a positive pattern that these kids have from day one. A habit that we are building still as 40-year-old men, they get to have their whole life.
The whole life. And I don't know how your father, your parents were, but that generation was a little different. Typically, like my dad had a weight set, but he wasn't really into hitting the gym. So it wasn't like, it was just an interest as I became a teenager that I wanted. But seeing it at that age, man, the foundation is, I mean, it's gonna be, your son, he's gonna be light years ahead of other kids.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the goal. I'm trying to make sure he's light years ahead. I'm
Yeah.
trying to make him way better than I ever was. And I think all fathers, we all have that. We all want that for our kids. But I do agree that it starts with us. We have to do the work. And for the 40-year-old men that you get, how much pullback is there? Is it when you're training a younger guy, they're all motivated and young and they have that fast appetite, and is older men doing the same? Are they motivated, or are they kind of you have to wake them up first and get them out of that old shell?
I'd say it's like 50-50. Some of them you got to wake up because they'll come in excited, right? They might see a friend that's made a transformation. And then you get into doing the work like anything, and you realize it's a process. And, you know, I tell them, look, guys, I'll never judge you guys. I'm to be a mirror for you. I'm a guide for you. But if what you said you were going to fast and you didn't, why? You caved to your feelings, right? So some guys can take that type of, coaching, and some guys don't like that because it really, when they look in the mirror, it falls on them. And it's like we have a guy at one of our gyms. He did great with us in the past, right? So this is an in-person member we have. He still comes Saturday mornings. I run a private group there. But before COVID, he got down to like 250 pounds. Now he's about 400. He went back up, went completely off the wagon. And my buddy, this guy, Action Jackson, retired police officer, called me like 2 weeks ago. He said, I saw GL and, this dude is, he's over 400. What are we going to do? I said, there's nothing I said, I've talked, like, he doesn't want to change. Nothing you can do until he's ready, right? It's important, but it's not urgent for most people, right? So you get like a 50-50. And the fasting, I think, helps because right away they feel some success just because if they can get that first 48, that's why people start people out with a 48. They have confidence, a little bit of confidence, right? And
Yeah.
then they can start moving.
Yeah, no, I get that. And you ever hear that analogy of, I know you've heard the analogy of taking the horse to the water, but if you want to get the horse to really drink the water, you starve it, you make it thirsty, and you just keep it away from the water, keep it away from food, and
Yeah.
make it torture. You're pretty much torturing it until it finally drinks the water. So that old saying, a lot of people say, you can actually make the horse drink the water. It just depends on time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you made me think of that with your friend, because many guys are like this. We get into our routine, and sometimes I feel like it takes the worst thing that could happen in their lives. Maybe sometimes it's someone dying. Sometimes it's like you mentioned earlier about them not having a disease yet, even though food is poison. Most food is poison. I'll probably put 90% out there is poison.
Yep.
And how do we get men? Can we actually bring them in? I should say that's a better phrase. Can we bring them in and really get them consistent and disciplined? Or do we have to wait till they've hit that attrition rate that just really wakes them up?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I always look at like the different types of mindset. Like I always say, like, I listen to my daughter, she's 4. This is how like a toddler talks or whatever. Like, I want to. I have to, right? And we've had people like this, the doctor or the wife tells them you gotta go. Ain't gonna work until they've made that shift to I will. And it's really an internal shift, and realizing that, guys, it's okay if you tried and failed before, right? We've all done that with many things. But just, are you going to give up or are you going to come back and do it again? And then realize that you're going to break through. We talked about the comfort zone, right? Eventually, and ask yourself the question, what are you scared of? Why are you scared of making this positive transformation? Get clear on it.
No, that's a solid point. A lot of people, they're afraid of the change, right? As we mentioned earlier. And what you just said there, failure. How many are afraid of failure? And why is it important to teach failure? I know right now my son's 3, and he was playing soccer. He's a little stud. He is. I'm not gonna lie. He had like a hat trick at the last game, but someone else scored on the other team, and he ran to some dad crying. And I'm trying to teach him, like, you can't score every goal, dude. That's just not possible. You have to fail a little bit. And then he like lost one game, and I was teaching him lessons on failure. I'm just talking right now. Is he listening and getting all of it? No, but over time he's going to understand why failure is important. Do we preach that, or do you preach that to the guys that you coach, that failure is okay and that it should be something that sometimes we need failure to push us to the next level?
That's how you're going to learn. Like, I just came from jiu-jitsu, and my professor over there, it's one thing that he said early on when I started there. You only lost if you don't know why you lost. So if you fail, but you can pinpoint why, then it's a win. You learned. So it's not like, and who hasn't failed? There's nobody, right? There's nobody besides maybe Christ, right? That's never failed.
Right.
So you again, expect it. It's coming. And the higher you keep playing, you're gonna fail probably more often. You're gonna have more resistance coming at you. But again, reframe it. Figure out why you lost, and then it's a win.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that saying that you only lost if you don't know why you failed or something. That's a great. I wrote it down. That's a really good
That's
saying.
a good one. Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
one.
Um, I'm gonna go back to the morning routine really fast here. I try to keep these a little bit shorter, and there's so much information I could just draw from you, so I'm trying to get it. Why is it important? What is your morning routine, and why is it important for men to establish a morning routine? I am like you. I wake up at 4:30 every morning. 4:25 is actually my alarm for the last 8 years. So
Nice.
before I even came into this world, I was doing it in the military because I was trying to beat traffic on base.
Yeah.
That was literally the reason I did it. And people are like, "That's not the reason." I started working out twice a day by 8 in the morning because I didn't want to wait in traffic. And traffic was enough for me to leverage it to be
Yeah.
my motivation. So yeah. So what is your morning routine, and why is that important for men to establish?
So my morning routine, when I write it down, I do my daily planner every night, the night before. Cold tub, not in this order. So cold tub's usually second. Pray, so I read my scripture in the Bible, and then I pray. And then I hit the cold tub. Like I used to have more complex morning routines, and then I'll work out in the morning. But that's what I'm doing when I wake up. I read right now. I'm reading the book of Psalms. I'm reading the book of Luke. Do that. I have a group text with some guys on that. Send out what my takeaway is. Cold tub, and then from the cold tub, a lot of times I'll hop right into our hot tub, and that's where I'll pray more or I'll do some visualization. But it sets the foundation, right? It's like, no, I'm waking up. It gives you clarity, right? It gives you clarity. You're waking up. You're not wondering, what am I going to do? And even with, so I tap into my faith right away. And in the cold tub, all the physiological benefits, to me, it's a mental toughness thing. It's a love hate, man. I hate getting in that thing. But it's like, I know if I do this by whatever time, by 5:30, that's a win. Check it off my list. I did something that made me uncomfortable right out the gate. And I feel great afterwards. So I think the importance, guys, of having that morning routine is to set your sails for the day, really. You're going to put yourself on a positive note right away and win that part of your day. And if you wait until later on in the day, those wins aren't going to come, man, because life happens.
Yeah, if you wait too long, it never comes. And I think most men that are listening to this, you guys all understand that we never can wait. We have to go take the time and make the time that we have. So I agree with you. I do almost a very similar. I don't have a cold tub, but right now it's pretty cold in Georgia. So what I do is I walk outside with my son. Again, a 3-year-old doing cold
Right.
therapy outside. So I do it now, but I do affirmations and meditation,
Right.
pretty much the same as praying, because even at night with my son, I'll sit there and I'll say, "Thank you, God,
Yeah.
universe." I say everything. So he sees that he can pick whatever he wants, whatever fits his soul and spirit there.
Yeah.
But I agree. When you wake up, it's better not to be attached to the phone all
Oh,
day and wake up looking at that and getting that first dopamine fix from the phone. Instead, get that dopamine fix from something that's real:
yeah.
meditation, journaling, reading. And I'm not saying that, and I don't think I don't want people to misconstrue what we're saying. You don't have to have a morning routine that's the same as ours,
No.
right? And you need to find something that fits you and makes you feel well balanced, right? Congruency, pretty much overall.
Yeah. That's the thing is, you've probably done similar. Like in the past, I've had these really complex morning routines, and all of a sudden that becomes like, what am I doing? I'm just doing a morning routine for hours, and that doesn't serve you necessarily either for most people. So find it just one or two things, that fit you, like you just said, man, and do that, right? And make it simple.
Yeah, I agree. I only have one more question for you, Kyle. And I ask everyone this question: what is the biggest obstacle in fatherhood that you've overcome?
The biggest obstacle, and I would say it was more so as of late, was the recognition that I have everything I already need, and they have what they need. Because it's so easy. And my wife, we have some tough conversations. We got a really great relationship. And she told me, it feels like you're always putting on second. You're so focused on the businesses. Got multiple businesses. And then it really clicked me. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I have them, right? Be there for them. So reprioritizing your priorities. So basically, I look at it, you got fitness, faith, finance, and family. For a long time, if I looked at where am I putting most of my emotional and spiritual energy, it was finance, the business, probably fitness, family, and then faith. So I pretty much just flipped that upside down. And it's really been giving me a lot of peace and serving me well, and taking away that, not that I have anxiety or anything, but taking that, hey, I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and it's all good.
Yeah, dude, that's profound as can be, actually, to just realize that you could just flip something and it works out perfectly for you.
Yeah.
And you're right what you said there. Um, we have. All we need is our family, and you already have that. And that's the most important part. And so, man, that's I haven't heard that. That's a really profound answer, and I love that, Kyle. Huh?
I said, awesome, man. I'm glad it helped.
Yeah, no, that's great. I just need to say thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you being here and taking the time to do an interview for the summit. Before we go, can you hit everyone with your contact information, where they can find you, and how they can follow you on social medias?
Yeah. Well, first, thanks, Jack. This was awesome, man. You're a good dude, man. I picked that up just from our back and forths and chatting with you. So I appreciate what you're doing. So if you guys want to get into contact with me on Instagram, it's the Panda Man Official. Same thing on YouTube. thepandamanofficial.com. If you go there, there's a lot of free downloads, workouts, restructured my fasting book so you can get a free 88 page, my fasting opus kind of. And if you want to reach out to me, I try to answer everybody and I get to everybody eventually, but my cell phone number is 908-229-6666. That's my personal cell. You shoot me a text, I'll get right back to you.
I like that. I've seen a couple guys do that. I did it a couple times where I put my number out and no one reached out to me.
No,
They DM me instead.
hey, it's funny. Like, I always tell people, if you want to get in touch with me, text is the best, because I don't have a lot of alerts on my phone. But I check. I never have the ringer on this thing. But I'll see text and then I'll get back to you. But if it's on Instagram, sometimes, man, like, you get buried, man, and then it's like you're trying to catch up with that. And
Yeah, no, same,
yeah,
same.
yeah,
Oh, that's it, man. I appreciate your time and have a great day, man. Take care, brother.
yeah. Thanks, bro.
All right, later.
Later.